Welcome to 74 Escapes new podcast series Breaking Bread with Vera Loulou. I'm Vera, and I will take you on a gastronomic journey to explore food as an expression of cultural identity. I'll be hosting chefs and industry professionals from all over the world to discuss everything about this art form that really nourishes our souls. Let's start. On this episode of Breaking Bread, I'm so delighted to be speaking with Chef Ignacio Mattos. Born and raised in Montevideo, Uruguay, Ignacio spent most of his childhood on his family's farm, fishing and canoeing, doing barbecues, family dinners. His mother's and grandmother's cooking has made an immense impact on his early years. After culinary school and a few uninspiring experiences in different kitchens, Ignacio met Michelin-starred, who he considers his first true chef. Ignacio's main mentor is the remarkable Francis Mallmann. He continued to sharpen his skills at Café, Japanese, and later moved to New York, where he worked as a chef at Il Buco. Now, the chef and owner of one Michelin-starred Estela and Altro Paradiso, he is an undisputed leader of New York City's dining scene with his fresh, bold, and masterful style, ingredient-driven approach, and immaculate presentation. And today, I welcome Chef Ignacio on this episode of Breaking Bread. Chef, how are you today?
Hi, how are you? Pretty good, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on Breaking Bread with us and me. I'm very excited to have you.
As well.
You're my true inspiration. You're the reason why I stay in New York for food. Please tell me how it all started. The table, grandmother Celia, and her cooking.
How you all get started? I think it's, culturally, it's pretty European. Like, my grandma, it's an Italian background. My grandfather is Spanish, and everything it's just gravitate around the kitchen. And you make it pretty much anywhere. But yeah, we will always be around that. Like my grandmother's house was always the most reliable place. We always knew that it would be food. She would be there. So it was very comforting and safe place. It was always activities. It was always things that you have to do. So in a way, like, it kind of keep you engaged. You learn a lot by just simply watching. So it was a lot of that. It was like from time to time there were like little taps. If you weren't really paying attention or getting on the way. But overall, yeah, it was just that, a very regarding and comforting place that it provides safety, And we grew up eating like delicious stuff. In the summer, we would be preserving absolutely everything. From making pears in syrup, from peaches, tomato sauce, wine, peppers, pickles, and so on, marmalades. So it was like, it was pretty intense and hands-on, Like at the time I wasn't super keen, as a kid, like on the summer having to work on my vacation. But I learned to appreciate it, and it was really nice to see that, like slaughtering pigs and seeing the whole process. So yeah, it was very rich in that respect, and like grilling outside all the time, which culturally is like quite normal down there. It's not really, we're gonna make barbecue this weekend. You know what I mean? You kind of lit the fire and make it happen. So. Yeah, so it created an interesting relationship with food that is pretty casual and normal. It's not as special, even if it's really special that to keep those traditions in place. But it was just the day to day.
So who was in charge of markets and grocery shopping? Did you have to come alone, and did you enjoy it when you were doing it?
Yeah. We will have to do that. We will either go to farms directly, or like there will be a market like on Saturdays and we will go. I have to say, I wasn't always super happy to do it. But
I always loved to eat, but I didn't enjoy shopping like I do now for food.
Right now, best. I like love it. But at the time, yeah, I was carrying stuff a little bit skinny. Like I always felt like I was going to collapse. But yeah.
And tell me, so what is your love of brining? You tend to brine a lot. What is it? What does it come from?
My love for what? Sorry.
For brining.
Brining.
Do you think it's the Italian side?
I'm trying to think like where that came from, but like down growing up, we brine things. Also, we do a lot of like we do brines to, like, if you're grilling like a big piece of meat, you brush the meat with a brine, and it's pretty much salt and water. When you had some spices, but you would brush like a lamb, so it absorbs the meat. It absorbs the salt differently. It also helps adding moist and allowing the caramelization to happen in a slower way. So it's always been brining here and there, and then I don't know, like moving in different kitchens, you start exploring different things and seeing like other things and forms of applying it, where to vegetables, or like you would do it on pickles when you were a kid and you forgot about that, and then you start seeing it somewhere else applied slightly bit different. So it comes like from the same place. It's a pretty ancient technique and quite efficient, in terms of distributing salt.
My grandma used to have a vegetable garden, and she would preserve everything and pickle. And she had almost like a closet underneath where she would just store all these pickled things. And because it's so cold in Russia, you don't really need any refrigeration. You just store it underground. And there's all these pickle jars with tomatoes and cucumbers and preserves, obviously jams and stuff. And it was quite magical. So it's quite a good memory.
It's amazing. No, absolutely amazing memory. For me, it was like we would go under this stair, this basement, and it would be like, so much stuff, and it would last through the winter even more. And it's like it's pretty fascinating the abundance and the generosity that nature provides. Even a small little garden, or like a pig, slaughtering a pig, or a cow. The amount of meat that I don't think people have any idea. I have crazy memories of like having to break down a whole cow and having to put away like it's
chicken's head off, which is cool.
It's pretty. As a kid, it's kind of traumatizing, I might say so. It wasn't, but you get used to it and you live with it, and it's like amazing life lessons, and it makes a pretty slightly bit different. So it's nice to see all that, the fruit of the labor and the hard work that you put into the stuff, like particularly when going through cold winters, like it's not really other way to survive it if you don't put out the work that you need to put out at a certain time that nature is allowing you and is providing you with the tools and the ingredients. You have to put out the work, and in order to make it work, everybody had to do their part. Everybody had to collaborate. And a lot of times, you see a lot of sense of community, like at the farm, everybody would do their part and everybody would take their part with them, So that was a beautiful thing to see. Everybody had a role and everybody would get a part of it. And it would be plenty for everybody.
You and I both worked in a few uninspiring kitchens. Do you think this kind of experience can really impact the passion and future of a young cook?
Like spending time in those type of kitchens?
If you start off where it's rather disappointing and uninspiring, do you think it can make an impact? Hey, maybe I don't want to be a chef, where it kills your passion in a way. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I think like kitchens, like they always been in particular disciplinary kitchens and structured kitchens. Good kitchens. I think it's interesting. If you really want to learn, like at any level, any craftsmanship, nobody's gonna give it to you served on a silver platter. You know what I mean? It requires commitment. It requires hard work. Things has changed and shaped. But even if you go to a carpenter, the carpenter is not gonna give you what he earned. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, forget about the idea of talent. Like these days, everybody's like talking about talent. Like, it's dedication at the end of the day. Then you might at some point, I don't know. Of course, there are rare cases that people have like a natural talent at a very young age. And it's amazing, but I think like, just that dedication and hard work, it is very important. And a lot of times the kitchens, they serve as a filter, because the other way it's just like, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of investment on these people. And it's no easy work, It's not easy, it's very gratifying, but you have to love it and you have to love what you do. And this goes to anything that you do, I think it's very important to learn how to love it. So a lot of times, these places, they serve a little bit of a filtration, and then you can channel it in different places. Perhaps you don't need to end up in restaurants. I don't think that for everybody, but as we can see these days, they serve like a pretty essential role on modern society. Like the moment that you remove these places, like it's a whole web that is attached to it, and it gets broken, and aside for that is like what it implies to socially interact, at least in places, I don't know, I think it's anywhere in the world, but particularly in New York, because we live here. I think we realize like how essential they are for like human dynamics, and society. So, kitchens like that, they help filtering and or inspiring people to want to do stuff like that. For me, like getting to a place like that kitchen that Michel Kereber was there, like I don't know if the cooking was like really, these days, but
it was inspiring.
I know it was very completely foreign and new to me. You know what I mean? And like, like hearing all the terminologies and like the words in French that they have.
It was a lot to learn.
What?
It was a lot to learn at the end of the day. It inspired you, and he was your first true chef.
Yeah. It was a very interesting character for sure.
And so right after this, you met Francis, and tell me how that developed, and where were you at this stage in your life professionally? I know it was, young experiences, but you were still just coming into your cooking. So tell me how it impacted you.
Yeah, I was very green. I was just right after that. I was just still in culinary school. It was supposed to be a 2 years program. I was in my first year, and this person that worked in at the school, he saw me my determination with it. So she directed me to go to this place but I never heard of Francis. Uruguay in a way is kind of insular, you know what I mean? And also it was very early on, no internet. But I get into this very beautiful restaurant that I had no idea that, but I could see and recognize beauty instantly. And then, there were different elements where he was his like library, whether his music, and I'm like, and the location, and then like the cooking is speak to myself, like, it was of a very particular simplicity. Also, Francis came from a very classical French training, so they were like, it was a time where Francis still was merging and trying to detach from that Frenchy line. So there were still things on the menu that were classical, like I don't know, kidneys and Armagnac. Or like, the way that he was doing the
So
But slowly, he was detaching from that thing and developing this whole thing with fire. We already were cooking with, these wood fires. And yeah, so I started working with him. I get offered to work with him in Mendoza. And I got put into a place where I needed to decide if I wanted to work in, if I want to go back to school, which I really never really liked it, or go to work in something that I was like fascinated by the entire world, and it was a lot of work for very little money. And I just loved it, and I went into this adventure, and like Francis had created, his own universe, and, you get, you jump into this universe and
you feel very fulfilled.
What?
You feel very fulfilled at the moment.
Yeah, right. And from there, yeah, I started working for him. I worked for like 7 years. In a moment, I just went to other stuff here and there, but like a total of 7 years that I worked with him, and it was an incredible experience. It was like a true mentor. It's a friend, somebody that I respect and love, and we have our own point of view in many different things. I love my time there,
And then you spend time in San Sebastian in Galicia, which is one of my favorites, and Spain, which is really like a miracle. It's so hard to detach yourself from those ingredients once you come back to the US.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, and I have family in Galicia, so I spend a good chunk in Galicia with my aunt, going to restaurants, eating, stashing in different places, seeing different things being done in different ways, tasting new ingredients, things that I thought I was familiar with, but then you are like, hold on, I've been cheated my entire life, that wasn't, an egg, just like, tasting the tortilla made in Galicia by whoever, you know what I mean? By, the way that those eggs taste.
Simple, but very sophisticated.
Yeah, for the simplicity that it is of a sophistication that is.
Quality, ingredients, everything, even potato.
Yeah.
Tell me about your most memorable memories of Spain when you were there, outside of, cooking as well.
I just love going to the market, going to the market and having a sherry at 10 in the morning, with some. I'm like, this is so good, Why do I need, I'm not saying that I need to drink it every day at 10, but I just love the idea of, I wasn't familiar. I never really, like at 10 o'clock, I'll be having this with my aunt. So I love those rants at the market and the conversation at the market. And yeah, and I love going to the market here, but it's slightly bit different,
Very different.
It's very different experience, like the markets there, they have their own life, and it's like a little bar, and the bar,
very connected. And it's, I went to Valencian market right before my flight, and I spent 3 hours there. I went and I had a beer, and like I had maybe 10 Galician oysters, like the size of my hand. And I took literally an entire backpack of jamon and everything else. And I was so lucky that they didn't stop me at the customs, because there was a hand luggage, and it was just packed with ham and all the good conservas. It was so good.
Yeah.
Those were the times.
It's a tradition and care, like the same thing. And then the Basque country, I think like the Basque, they take so much pride of the heritage of, being a small little place in the middle of Europe and having so much identity and character and appreciation for like what the lands provide them, and a lot of care for how do they handle those things. It's really fascinating, like the hospitality is like beyond, the attention to detail, and they're a very warm
people.
people. Yeah, very, very warm. You know, they seem a little bit aggro at first, but they're like true, you know, they have a big heart.
And I like the French side as well. I love Basque, from Spanish and French side. It's a bit different, but it's really special as well.
Yeah, no, totally. Agree.
Biarritz and Saint-Jean-de-Luz, so much fun. So tell me, so you're in New York City since a while, and tell me what you love so much about New York.
I think it's like what we all love, it's eclectic, it's electric, it's a place where, I don't know, if you have something to say, there will be somebody and someone listening to it, like, because everybody is either it came here with a need for doing those connections, or whether they didn't fit wherever they belong. And this place is a pretty, I don't know, I have a hard time with people say, oh, New York is so harsh or so intense. I think, yes, it is intense, but I think it's a pretty friendly and amicable place. Maybe I'm getting delusional, but I just...
how you live in New York as well. It's got different vibes depending on the region, like where you are, and it's also how you live your life, and it can be intense, but you can also choose not to be intense.
Yeah, and you learn that with a little bit of time. I think everybody jumped and came here and tried to make conclusions in whatever, they came for 6 months, a year.
Absolutely.
It takes a minute to get familiar and get to know and understand the whereabouts. But I think it's incredible that you have this melting pot of cultures and everybody get along. It could be like the perfect mess, you know what I mean? Like everybody somehow get along, and overall, like, people are, quite open and willing to, to learn and experiment. I don't know. It's an interesting place. I think, it's a lot of things that they could be improved, It's been run in funny ways. I think it could be a little bit more creative. It could be a little bit more friendly to creative people and provide. It could be a little bit cheaper, so creative people could move here more often. Like it used to be like that.
It used to be like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it became this little bubble of wealth. But this still, like, it's at the core and at the essence, New York is like it's meant to be, greedy and have edge to it. So hopefully it comes back a little bit, no?
Yeah. Very important question. So how did you come to create your famous egg sandwich?
How do you become creativity? What was the question? Sorry, again, I didn't hear you.
How to create your famous egg sandwich from Flora Bar? How many tests it took, and how was it born in your mind? How did you come to create it?
I think it's, I don't know, like, I think it's at times you just trying, it's a different ways of approaching, like, creativity, it's just like as a sandwich. I think a sandwich is more about engineering than like creativity, really, you know what I mean? You're just putting things together that are like very familiar in a very familiar format. So I thought of that of more of like engineering, like how it's gonna eat, how it's gonna feel. Wanted to make it comforting, wanted to make it accessible, but at the same time it needed to be surprising and kind of like, oh shit, But yeah, it just came from a very technical approach of like providing comfort in a way that, perhaps it's
layers. It's comfort, creative, and it's got so many layers to that sandwich that are just very well thought out, I find.
I'm glad you like it, because I thought it was pretty delicious sandwich, and I have crazy respect for people that can do like amazing sandwiches, like if they eat well and they are yeah, they're not as easy as they seem, but also they're not as...
It's not a sandwich. Sandwich is, it can be a piece of art, really. It can be a fantastic sandwich or it can be a very crappy one. And that was one fantastic sandwich. Really. Have you ever thought about, unfortunately, since the Flora bar is closed to my heartbreak forever, is there any way that you can offer it in any of the other restaurants, or it could be like a pop-up sometime where it could be just that sandwich, like egg shop, quote unquote?
It might be a version of it. Why not? It could be a version of it. I wouldn't say no. Yeah, but sometimes, you know, you have to close and turn a page. But we always carry little things here and there, you know, and then they transform in different forms. And I think, you know, I think everything comes from somewhere. So yeah, we might take it and turn it into something else at some point. So I'll keep you posted.
And last question before I let you go. What are your predictions post-COVID? Where do you see yourself, the restaurant industry? What are your projections?
The projection, I think it's going to be a pretty busy spring and summer. I think New York is going to be exciting at that time. It's been absolutely, you know, beyond challenging and very difficult, but we are ready to turn this page, and I'm ready and very excited for what's to come. We have a new project coming in soon. There is like a cafe, bakery, aperitivo bar situation. So we're working on that, trying to make that thing a quite special place. We have a beautiful, beautiful space. We started construction yesterday, so focusing on that. And it's a couple of other projects. This is in 49. It's one Rockefeller Plaza. It's on 49 and Rockefeller Plaza. Yeah, so it's this beautiful Art Deco building and build up that we're doing. So it is gorgeous. So and then we have a couple of things here and there. We're still like working on it. But, you know, keep working on Altro and Estela, making sure, like, you know, they're still relevant and exciting places and that we all want to come and have fun on it. So that's where we are, you know, like focusing on the two places, Altro and Estela. The new opening at is going to be called Café Lodi. And then it's something else that we're very excited about it. And it will be, you know, like a concept that, yeah, it's like close to home and close to here, and we'll see. Kind of
another book.
It might be another book.
Nice. It was so much fun breaking bread with you. I hope to see you soon. Have a glass of Chablis, Plateau de Mer, and really talk more. And thank you so much for being on Breaking Bread.
Thank you, Vera, and absolutely looking forward to it. Okay.
Thank you so much. Gracias.